What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and today we got a fun one. We're going to talk through my 7 sneaky starts and stats for week 2 of the fantasy football season. This is going to be our Friday show where I bring you guys 5 to 10 players that I am higher on than the Fantasy Pros expert consensus rankings, and I give you a stat as to why that is. Now, I'm not going to talk about Derrick Henry or Jamar Chase. All of these guys are going to be deeper players that you can use either in deeper lineup leagues, whether that's like a 3 wide receiver, 2 flex league, or if you're in a 14-team league, or if you're just simply down bad. We're going to have bye weeks that are going to hit here. We're going to have injuries that are going to hit, and you might find yourself scrambling on a Sunday morning because of injuries or just something freaky that happens in the madness that is the NFL season. So with that being said, if you're new, subscribe, leave a like if you enjoy. And our first player we are going to talk about is Jakobi Meyers. Now, I talked about up top, like the uses for this, of course, fantasy football, but you can also use it on Underdog. If you want to check out the Pick'em lobby, they have gimme picks when you use promo code RON. And when you use promo code RON, you play $5 and they'll give you $50 in bonus funds. I will have a link to that in the description and the comment section down below. Promo code RON when you sign up over on Underdog. And you can check out Jakobi Meyers here. You can take his higher receptions or yards, and you can string that all together throughout this video and pick 3 or 4 players that you like for either pick'ems on Underdog, or you can do DFS or the Battle Royales on Underdog as well. Now, with Jakobi Meyers, he is in this LA Chargers versus the Raiders game. The Raiders are at home. The Chargers are 3.5-point favorites on the road. It is one of the higher over-unders of the slate. This game is at 10 p.m. Eastern, which is it's a side note, but that's just absolutely bonkers. But Jakobi Meyers this week is my wide receiver 23 at home versus the Chargers. That is 4 spots higher than consensus, and here's why. The stat for Jakobi Meyers is he's coming off a wide receiver 15 finish with a 30% target share and now faces the Chargers in a game tied for the 4th highest total between 2 top 5 neutral pass rate teams. Hollywood Brown just went 10 catches for 99 yards against this defense. Now, I will say as well, we just got the news that Brock Bowers didn't practice on Friday, which also speaks to Jakobi Meyers getting a bump up there. And I do want to give a shout out to, I used the Fantasy Points data suite. I used Sharp Football Analysis. The worksheets that Rich Rebar does is amazing. The data dump from JJ Zacharyson is amazing. PFF, of course, I looked at. Just want to sort of broadly, Fantasy Life's another one, broadly give tons of props to all of these resources that I'm pulling from. Now, with Jakobi Meyers, we just had the Raiders and the Chargers pass among the top 5 teams in terms of pass rate over expectation. So just in terms of what you're expected to pass for, how many times did you attempt passes over that. Both of these teams are pass happy. It's not going to be super up-tempo. Like, both of these teams aren't super fast, but there should be enough pass attempts, enough explosive plays for especially Jakobi Meyers to really feast against this Chargers offense, or Chargers defense. Even though the Chargers defense is good, I think there's going to be enough pass attempts, and I think that Jakobi Meyers will be the focal point this week with Bowers banged up. Then our second sneaky start of the week is Geno Smith in this same game as our QB streamer of the week. And I should have added that at the intro. This is also going to be a video where I give you 1 quarterback streamer every week and 1 tight end streamer every week, because you never know what happens. Like we just talked about, Brock Bowers didn't practice on Friday, so I'm going to give you a tight end streamer at the end of this video, because I'm sure that you were kind of expecting, okay, Brock Bowers is banged up, but he'll play next week. I still think that he probably does play, but I'm just saying we're now at a spot where Harold Fannin is picked up, Juwan Johnson is picked up, Zach Ertz played on Thursday, and if we get to Sunday and Brock Bowers isn't ready to go, the waiver wire is going to look pretty rough. So I will have a tight end streamer as well. But for our quarterback streamer, we have Geno Smith. He's my QB 19 this week at home versus the Chargers. 2 spots higher than consensus. I will say, when it comes to quarterbacks and tight end streamers, it's not that I'm way higher than consensus on these guys, just that I like them and they're not owned in a lot of ESPN leagues. Geno Smith, the stat here is that he is rostered in just 11.5% of ESPN leagues, but gets a dream spot versus the Chargers. The Chargers just allowed the 8th most quarterback fantasy points in week 1, and their run D forced Kansas City to the 3rd highest pass rate over expectation in week 1, with the 4th highest over-under on the slate. This game screams fireworks. Now, I did misspell over-under there. It happens to the best of us, but at a Total of 45.5. We should see fireworks. We should see a lot of pass attempts. And Geno Smith is out there in almost 90% of your ESPN leagues in a game where, yes, the Chargers played Pat Mahomes last week, but they did allow the 8th most quarterback fantasy points in week 1. This run defense is stout. Ashton Jeanty got nothing going in week 1, and I kind of expect that to continue against the Chargers, and then we can see a ton of pass attempts from the Raiders, who are underdogs to the Chargers and should be in a pass-happy game script. Now, our third sneaky start of the week is somebody that's not in a pass-happy game script. It's quite the opposite. We have Jordan Mason, who's going to be at home versus the Falcons. He's my RB29 on the week. That's 4 spots higher than the consensus. I have him ahead of Aaron Jones. I've already waved the white flag. We did it in the 10 lessons video. Jordan Mason is here to stay. He is a legit guy. I still think Aaron Jones will be in the mix, but in this game script, I think that it sets up really, really well for Jordan Mason. This is a game where they are 3.5-point favorites at home in the Dome. And Jordan Mason, if you guys remember in that game, I believe that was Monday Night Football. It feels everything's gelling together already, where Monday Night Football feels like a month ago. But the Bears versus Vikings game, like Jordan Mason was legitimately a hammer for them down the stretch and actually kind of set them up for J.J. McCarthy to win that game. Now, our stat for Jordan Mason here is the Vikings have the 4th-ranked offensive line versus Atlanta's 32nd-ranked defensive line by Establish the Run. That's from Brandon Thorne over there, their offensive line expert, who does really, really good work. And they were one of only 2 teams with a minus 10% pass rate over expectation in week 1. As home favorites with the 9th highest team total, the game script screams run heavy again. And what I mean by 9th highest team total, that's when you look at Vegas and how much they're projecting every team to score. They're going to be in the top 10 for points. They're home favorites. They ran the ball. The other team that also ran the ball minus 10% over expectation or 10% under expectation, however you want to say that, was the New York Jets. So the 2 run heaviest teams were the Jets, obviously with Fields and the Breece Hall rushing attack, and then the Vikings. So this is going to be a bit of a change for the Vikings, where with J.J. McCarthy, they're going to want to run the ball more. I think that it makes a lot of sense against the Falcons for them to just hammer Jordan Mason up the gut, have him move the chains. He wasn't explicitly the short yardage back in this game. Like, there definitely still will be an Aaron Jones presence, but I just think that this sets up for a really nice, like, you know, can they be up 2 scores in the 4th quarter and you get a Jordan Mason 6-carry drive to kind of end things? You are definitely hoping he ends up in the end zone, but I think that he probably will in this game. Then our 4th sneaky start is going to be Jameson Williams. I think that people are probably a little bit spooked off of Jameson Williams. The Lions looked really bad, but I think we got confirmation last night of why we should probably chill out and pump the brakes on panicking over the Lions, is that this Packers defense is just absolutely amazing. They made Washington look bad last night. Washington, of course, scores that late touchdown with Deebo Samuel, but before that, they were doing nothing but scoring field goals. I think that the final score was closer than the game actually was. And this Packers defense is just like that, where, yes, they have Micah Parsons, but even in the run game, they have all these first-round picks that are just kind of like spawning out of nowhere, where early on these guys were just depth pieces, but now you have Van Ness, you have Devontae Wyatt, and they're just all wrecking havoc up front. But with Jameson Williams, the Lions get a really nice bounce-back spot here. It's actually the revenge game, right? So you get it's kind of a revenge game, but you get Ben Johnson coming back home to Detroit in only week 2. I thought Ben Johnson looked okay, but his offense wasn't amazing. And then also he did have some down the stretch of like not essentially at the end of the game, he kicked the ball into to the Vikings, and then they brought it out and they bypassed a 2-minute warning, which was a huge swing point in that game. As a more seasoned head coach, you got to either kick the ball out of bounds or not kick the ball far enough, and you get, you take the penalty, you put it at the 40, and you save the time that's on the clock. But this should be an interesting game, and I think that the Lions are actually going to be pretty motivated to, of course, like kind of stick it to Ben Johnson, but also kind of get the sour taste of the Packers really beating up on them last week out of their mouth. But with Jameson Williams, he's my wide receiver 33 at home versus the Chicago Bears. That's 4 spots higher than the consensus, and here is why. The stat is Jameson Williams draws the Bears' 32nd ranked pass rush win rate defensive line in a game where Detroit is projected for the 2nd most points. Detroit's offensive line had the 8th best pass block win rate in week 1. Chicago plays man at a 50% or higher rate and allowed 1 point per drop back in fantasy. That is the worst among 3 other defenses with a 50% or higher man coverage rate. So they run man coverage at the highest rate. They also give up the most fantasy points per drop back on those man coverage snaps. And Jameson Williams actually led Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta last year in yards per route run versus man. To me, this is a big eruption spot. Now, in terms of like the pass block win rate and the pass rush win rate, that's from ESPN Analytics. So this Detroit offensive line really wasn't that bad. Again, I think it's just that the Packers were that good. They should be able to hold up against the Chicago Bears, who their pass rush isn't amazing. It's okay, but it's not amazing. And then the amount of man coverage that they play should sort of play into the hands of a Jameson Williams. Like, I could see Jameson Williams having, I don't know, like 3 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown. I know that that's like kind of a crazy stat line, but Jameson Williams does that. And when you play that much man coverage, you kind of open yourself up to Jameson Williams crossers where he just absolutely dusts everybody, or go routes, or slot fades, whatever they want to do with Jameson Williams. I think he'll be in a really, really nice spot here at home in a bounce back spot. Then our 5th sneaky start of the week is going to be Dylan Sampson. I give you full encouragement, even if Quinshon Judkins plays in this game, to start Dylan Sampson as an RB3/flex play who has a really nice PPR ceiling in this game. They are going to be at home versus Baltimore. Dylan Sampson in this game is my RB32 +3 versus consensus. And the stat is Dylan Sampson went 8 for 64 receiving last week, leading all running backs in PFF receiving grade. Now he faces Baltimore as an 11.5 point underdog on the road. The perfect PPR game script against a defense that allowed the 10th highest running back target share in 2024. So even if Judkins comes back, I think that this is the perfect PPR scam game where they're going to be chasing points the entire time on the road. They're going to be down double digits. And I think we're just going to see a 2-minute drill, sort of like cheese clinic for Dylan Sampson, where he can get maybe 3 catches in the 2-minute drill, and down the stretch when they're chasing points, another 2 or 3 catches. And then all of a sudden, after going 8 for 64 in week 1, he goes again like 5 for 45, and he gives you a little bit on the ground. Maybe he falls in the end zone and gives you enough for like 10 to 15 PPR points, which you'll absolutely take from where you drafted Dylan Sampson in fantasy drafts. Again, Quinshon Judkins practiced in full. We don't know how much he's going to play in this game, and even if he does, I think he'll get a lot of these sacrificial between the 20s touches. But I wouldn't expect more than like, I think it'd be crazy if Quinshon Judkins saw any more than like 5 touches in this game. So I think because of that, you start Dylan Sampson while you can. I think Jerome Ford is completely an afterthought. I think if Judkins does play, I think that he takes more away from Jerome Ford than he does take away from Dylan Sampson. Now, in this same game, our 6th sneaky start isn't really a sneaky start, but I just want to give you the full confidence to play him. If you spent a ton of your fab on Harold Fannin this week, you can absolutely fire him up. He is my tight end 10 on the road versus Baltimore. That is 5 spots higher than consensus, and here is the stat for Harold Fannin. He debuted with 7 catches, the rookie tight end record that he, of course, tied with Tyler Warren, a 22% target share, team high, and a 2+ yards per route run while lining up all over the field. Now he gets Baltimore, who just allowed the 4th most points to tight end last week. We saw that with Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox. Rookie Mitchell Evans made a big play down the field. And on top of that, this is a game where Cleveland is, again, an 11.5 point underdog, so we should see a usage and game script set up for Fannin that should make him a PPR machine as the Browns chase points the entire time. We saw this is a guy where I honestly just kind of want to talk about Harold Fannin for a second because there's so much. This is just Isaiah Likely again. He's not going to be a stud. He's not going to do anything. And it's just so much different when it's a rookie versus somebody who's been in the league forever. Or not forever, but it was like his 3rd or 4th year, Isaiah Likely. This is a rookie who only fell in the draft due to really strength of schedule concerns. He had the craziest receiving season I've ever seen for a tight end. 117 catches, 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns at Bowling Green. He did it against Penn State. He did it against teams who knew this guy's on Bowling Green. The rest of his team sucks. We can just double team Harold Fannin the entire time, and he still went nuts on every single defense he played. And again, he only fell to the 3rd round because everyone was like, okay, he played at Bowling Green. But if you come on day 1 and you are amazing, it almost like explains away the bad draft cap when all of a sudden this guy is actually a stud who maybe should have been drafted as high as like the mid to late 1st in real life football. Now, he was used everywhere, which is what I like, where he's not really conflicting with David Njoku. 72% of the snaps, 29% of those in the slot, 6% in the backfield. They just want to scheme him up, get him the ball, use him in this like tight end, Geno Smith, Kyle Juszczyk sort of role, which is really nice for fantasy football, where you can just get some catches. So he got a screen target in this game. He got a designed rush in this game. He got 9 targets. He led the team in targets. So I think when he's on the field, even if he doesn't run, 85% of the routes like we'd love a tight end to do, I think that when he's on the field, he will be targeted and used as a focal point against this Baltimore Ravens defense. We'll see how it goes, but I'm giving you the confidence. Let's if you have a proven stud. You have even like a Mark Andrews, I'm starting over him. I'm still starting David Njoku over him. I'm still starting Hawkinson. And then, of course, everyone else is like pretty, like Kelsey, Laporte, all those guys. You're starting ahead of him. But once you get to the fringe area of like Kincaid or Pitts, Hunter Henry, all those guys, I'm firing up Harold Fannin over all of them. Then our last player for this sneaky starts video is going to be our tight end streamer of the week, Chig Okonkwo. He is my tight end 18 at home against the LA Rams. I'm one spot higher than consensus, so nothing crazy, but this is somebody who is rostered in less than 10% of ESPN leagues, and I think that he is the perfect guy where if you lose a Bowers or if maybe you got beat on bids for Juwan Johnson and Harold Fannin and you're left scrambling with George Kittle or something, I think Chig Okonkwo isn't a bad play. He was one of just 9 tight ends last week with 80% or higher route participation and a 15% or better target share. Now he gets the Rams, who allowed the 6th most fantasy points at tight end in 2024. I could see him getting like 4 catches, 50 yards, and a touchdown pretty, effortlessly, I guess is the word. I will say the Rams are a very good defense. The Titans should struggle again, but I do think we're going to see some improvement from Cam Ward. I think Chig Okonkwo can get a few catches here and there just to give you something in your tight end spot to feel decent about. Now, that's going to do it for us today. The goal is going to be to get to like 10 of these in a given week, but it's tough early on. We don't have bye weeks. We don't have a ton of data on all these teams either. So let me know how you feel about this format. This is a video series we did last year that I enjoyed. To me, this is it's at least more fun for me than I don't love here's 40 running backs, let's rank them, and then you just, do it week after week after week, the same set of 30 to 40 running backs. And those videos really don't even do that well, to be honest. I don't know what it is. It just seems like either the algorithm or you guys, you just prefer the other creators in that lane of content, which I think is fair. So I'm just going to try and do something else. And that's what this is. You guys know I'm always sort of trying new things in season. We'll see how this goes. But I will say as well, if you want access to my weekly rankings, right? So if you have Harold Fannin and you have somebody like a Mark Andrews, and like moving forward, you want to see, okay, who does this guy have ranked higher? You can find that over on the Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. Every week there, you get my waiver wire article on Tuesday, where I tell you exactly how much fab I'm bidding on every player. On Wednesday, you get my rest of season rankings for, trade targets and all of that good stuff. And then on Thursday, you get my weekly rankings for when you are setting your lineup for the week. All of that can be found on patreon.com/Ron Stewart in the description and the comment section down below. But if you can't support there, just leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys in the next one.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold, ice around my body like